Good morning. Thank you so much for joining us on Parliament Television. Today, Monday, 11th May 2026, we do expect business of the House to commence at 10 hours. And we just quickly look at what is expected to be considered on the floor of the House today, Monday, 11th May 2026. We do have announcements if there will be any urgent matters without notice, if there will be any motions that are coming, committee reports, and we also have bills that are coming at different stages. And quickly, just now we look at the details of the order paper. We do expect the first motion to be moved by Mr. Harry Kamboni, urging the House to adopt the report of the Zambian delegation to the 152nd Inter-Parliamentary Union IPU Assembly and related meetings held in Istanbul, Turkey from 15th to 19th April 2026 for the 5th session of the 13th National Assembly, laid on the table of the House on Sunday, 10th May 2026.
We also do expect Mr. Mtinta Twambo Iteshite, Member of Parliament, to move a motion urging the House to adopt the report over the Committee on Local Governance, Housing and Chiefs Affairs, on the report over the Auditor General on the audit of accounts of our local authorities for the financial year ended 31st December 2024, for the 5th session over the 13th National Assembly, laid on the table of the House on Sunday, 10th May 2026.
And another motion will be moved by Mumba Member of Parliament, Mr. Fred Jatila, urging the House to adopt the report of the Planning and Budgeting Committee on the consideration of the 2026 Annual Borrowing Plan Amendment for the 5th session of the 13th National Assembly, laid on the table of the House on Sunday, 10th May 2026.
Thereafter, we do expect the House to consider the following bills: the supplementary estimates of expenditure number 1 of 2026, commencement of committee work, and the House will resolve into committee. Thereafter, the following bills will be considered: the benefits of former Chief Justice, National Assembly Bill number 6 over 2026 at second reading.
We also expect the House to consider the Public Service Pensions Bill, National Assembly Bill number 69 of 2026 at second reading, the Local Authorities Superannuation Bill, National Assembly Bill number 70 of 2026 at second reading, the Public Gathering Bill, National Assembly Bill number 71 of 2026, the Petroleum Development and Management Bill, National Assembly Bill number 72 of 2026. Another bill coming up for consideration at second reading is the Technical Education, Vocational and Entrepreneurship Training Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 73 of 2026.
Other bills are the Penal Code Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 72 of 2026, the Local Government Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 75, the National Assembly Speaker Retirement Benefits Bill, National Assembly Bill number 77, the National Health Insurance Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 15, to be considered at committee stage.
We also expect to be considered at committee stage the National Arts Council of Zambia Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 20 of 2026, the Green Economy and Climate Change Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 39 of 2026, the National Health Research and Training Institute Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 43 of 2026.
Other bills include the Electoral Process Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 44 of 2026, committee stage, the Flying Doctor Service Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 47, the Zambia Medicines and Medical Supplies Agency Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 48, the Zambia Wildlife Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 49, the Zambia National Public Health Institute Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 50 over 2026.
Also coming up for consideration at committee stage, the Medicines and Allied Substances Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 51 of 2026, and the Sports Council of Zambia Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 52 of 2026. So on your screen is Madam Speaker's procession making its way to the chamber. Keep watching Parliament Television. Good morning.
Honorable members of Parliament, Madam Speaker.
Yeah.
Prayer. Almighty God, who in your infinite wisdom and providential goodness has appointed the offices of leaders and parliaments for the welfare of society and the just government of the people, we beseech you to consider with your abundant favor us, your servants, whom you have been pleased to call to the performance of such important responsibilities in this land. Let your blessing descend upon us here in Parliament assembled, and grant that we may, as in your presence, treat and consider all matters that shall come under our deliberation, in so just and faithful a manner as to promote your honor and glory, and to advance the peace, prosperity, and welfare of our country, and of those whose interests you have committed to our charge. Amen.
You're watching Parliament TV, the only station which is dedicated to bringing Parliament closer to you. Remember, Her Honor the Vice President on Thursday, 30th April, did move a motion suspend standing orders, that standing orders 24-1 and 27-34 and 123 over the National Assembly of Zambia standing orders 2024 be suspended to enable the House to sit from Monday 4th to Tuesday 12th May 2026 from 10 hours until business is concluded on each day, as well as to consider more than one stage of a bill at a single sitting until the House adjourns in the day. So this includes Saturday, which was 9th, as well as Sunday, 10th May 2026. The House has been sitting from 10 hours. Matimba.
And so bells are ringing. We don't have a quorum in the House. It is a requirement that 1/3 of members of Parliament must be present in the House for any business to transact. And so once the quorum has been formed, we do expect business of the House to commence. And before we crossed over to the chamber, we are just talking about the bills that are coming up for consideration at committee stage. We do have the Sports Council of Zambia Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 52 of 2026, the Zambia Educational Publishing House Foundation Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 54 of 2026, the Zambia Institute of Advanced Legal Education Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 56 of 2026, the Zambia Revenue Authority Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 57 of 2026, the Tourism and Hospitality Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 58 of 2026.
Others are the National Health Research Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 59 of 2026, the National Institute of Public Administration, National Assembly Bill number 60 of 2026, committee stage, the National Prosecution Authority, National Assembly Bill number 61, 2026, the Persons with with Disabilities Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 64, the Land Perpetual Succession Bill, National Assembly Bill number 66, committee stage as well, the National Pensions Scheme Bill, National Assembly Bill number 68 of 2026, the Closed Circuit Television Public Protection Bill, National Assembly Bill number 1, report stage, the Land Survey Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 12 of 2026, to be considered in that report stage.
All right, so that's what is expected to be considered on the floor of the House. 3 committee reports, and we do expect the House to consider 31 bills which are coming at 33 bills which are coming at different stages. We now quickly run you through business that was considered on the floor of the House yesterday, Sunday, 10th May 2026. Madam Speaker did make a ruling when business commenced at 10 hours yesterday. Madam Speaker rendered a consolidated ruling on 3 related points of order raised concerning allegations that some members of Parliament had crossed the floor in contravention of Article 72 of the Constitution of Zambia, Cap 1 of the laws of Zambia. Before rendering her ruling, Madam Speaker gave a background to the points of order as follows. The first one, on 8th April 2026, Mr. G.K. Chisanga, Member of Parliament for Lukasha, alleged that 6 members of Parliament, namely Mr. M. Katambo MP, Mr. Joel Chiweye MP, Mr. Sidney Mushanga MP, Mr. Sande Chanda MP, Mrs. Emma Marjorie Nakaponda MP, and Mr. Livan Chiwombo MP had defected to the United Party for National Development UPND, thereby abrogating Article 72, 2D and G of the Constitution.
Madam Speaker further stated that on 10th April 2026, Dr. C. Andereki, Member of Parliament for Katombola, alleged that Mr. B. M. Mundovile MP, Mr. G. K. Chisanga MP, and Mr. S. Kampyongo MP had joined the Forum for Democracy and Development, FDD, through the Tonse Alliance and had therefore ceased to qualify as members of Parliament under Article 722, and on 14th April 2026, Mr. B. Mpundu, Member of Parliament for Nkana, inquired as to why the Wangen parliamentary seat had not been declared vacant after Honorable M.F. Moyo was elected as an independent Member of Parliament, allegedly joined the UPND contrary to Article 72 of the Constitution.
Madam Speaker then informed the House that she would make one ruling on the 3 points of order as they were related, and raised the issue of vacation of a parliamentary seat by a Member of Parliament who crossed the floor of the House contrary to Article 72 of the Constitution. She observed that none of the members who raised the points of order had provided evidence to substantiate the allegations that the concerned members had crossed the floor.
Madam Speaker further informed the House that in accordance with the rules of natural justice, the offense of the office of the clerk wrote to all the concerned members requesting them to respond to the allegations, and that 6 members, namely Mr. M. Katambo MP, Mr. S. Mushanga MP, Mr. George Uwe MP, Mr. C. Chanda MP, Mrs. M. Nakaponda MP, and Mr. L. Chiwombwe MP responded and denied defecting to the UPND. They stated in their responses that they had merely expressed interest to join the UPND.
In view of the foregoing, Madam Speaker found that in the absence of evidence proving defection, the allegation could not be sustained, and accordingly the 6 members cited by Mr. G.K. Chisanga MP were in order and entitled to continue discharging their functions as members of Parliament.
Madam Speaker then stated that Honorable M.F. Moyo MP, Mr. B.M. Munduvile MP, Mr. G.K. Chisanga MP, and Mr. S. Kampyongo MP did not respond to the letters from the clerk's office. She, however, found that the points of order equally lacked.
Members, we have a quorum, so we can start the business for the day. I have 2 announcements, honorable members. I have received communication to the effect that in the absence of Her Honor the Vice President, who is attending to other government business, the Minister of Home Affairs and Internal Security, Honorable Jacob Jackie Mwimbu, Honorable Jacob Jack Mwimbu, MP, has been appointed acting leader of government business in the House from today, Monday, 11th May 2026, until further notice. I thank you. The next announcement, honorable members, I wish to inform the House that in accordance with the Standing Order 121.1 of the National Assembly of Zambia Standing Orders 2024, the following bills have been withdrawn by the sponsoring office. 1. The National Assembly Powers, Privileges and Immunities Bill number, National Assembly number 45 of 2026. And 2. The Parliamentary Code of Conduct Bill number, National Assembly Bill number 46 of 2026. Accordingly, the bills shall not be considered by the House. I thank you. The next will be urgent matters without notice. Effective tomorrow, there will be no urgent matters without notice because we don't have much time to address that issue. Then we go to motions. The Honorable Member for Kalomo Central.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I beg to move that this House adopts the report of the Zambian delegation that participated in the 152 IPU Assembly and related meetings laid on the table of the House on 10th of May 2026.
Is the motion seconded?
Yes, Madam Speaker.
Seconded by the Honorable Member for Nalolo. The question is that this House adopts the report of the Zambian delegation to the 152nd Interparliamentary Union IPU Assembly and the related meetings held in Istanbul, Turkey from 15th to 19th April 2026 for the 5th session of the 13th National Assembly laid on the table of the House on Sunday, 10th May 2026. Any debate? The Honorable Member for Kalomo Central.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The 152 IPU Assembly brought together over 1,500 delegates, among them over 65 speakers and 46 deputy speakers. The Assembly provided a vital platform for parliamentarians to deliberate on pressing global challenges, including conflicts, climate change, economic inequality, democratic governance, and protection of human rights. Madam Speaker, allow me to state that the Zambian participation at the Assembly was impactful and commendable. Under your leadership, the IPU, Zambian National Group, continued to distinguish itself as a respected voice within the global parliamentary community. Indeed, as the 5th session marks the final session before the dissolution of the 13th National Assembly ahead of general elections scheduled for 13th August 2026, it is befitting that we reflect on the immense institutional achievements realized under your stewardship. Madam Speaker, among the notable achievements under your leadership was the successful implementation of the tree planting initiative across all constituencies in Zambia, an initiative aimed at promoting environmental sustainability and combating climate change, the implementation of the gender-responsive budgeting, thereby ensuring that national budgeting process increases response to the needs of women, youth, and vulnerable groups in society. The advancement of digital transformation through enhanced e-parliament initiatives. The reforms improved parliamentary efficiency, transparency, accessibility, and citizen engagement, thereby modernizing the operations of Parliament. In addition, your commendable initiative of establishing the facility for members of Parliament and staff at Parliament reflects Parliament's commitment to promoting family-friendly workplaces, and advancing gender inclusivity within parliamentary operations. Madam Speaker, the House may also wish to note with pride the international recognition attained by Zambia during your tenure. These include your election as a member of IPU Executive Committee and Vice President of the IPU representing the Africa Geopolitical Group. This was not a personal achievement, but a great honor for Zambia and Africa as a whole. Further, my election as Vice President on the Committee of Human Rights of Parliamentarians, the election of Honorable Oliver Mtike MP to the Committee of Middle East Questions, and the appointment of Honorable Jacqueline Sabao MP as the Rapporteur on the Committee on Sustainable Development were clear testimony on the growing influence and credibility of Zambia within international parliamentary diplomacy. Madam Speaker, during the Assembly, several important resolutions were adopted. Among them was the resolution on strengthening post-conflict management mechanisms and restoring just and lasting peace. Delegates agreed that parliaments had a critical role to play in reconciliation, democratic governance, and preventing the recurrence of conflict. The Assembly also adopted a significant resolution calling for urgent parliamentary efforts to preserve ceasefires and support peace building in the Middle East and other regions affected by conflict. Zambia proudly supported this resolution, reaffirming our country's long-standing commitment to peace, dialogue, multilateral cooperation. Further, the Assembly resolved to promote increased representation of women and youth in politics and called upon parliaments to strengthen legislative capacity in emerging areas such as artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, digital governance. Madam Speaker, before I conclude, allow me to also note that the Assembly celebrated historic milestone with the election of Ambassador Philip of Romania as the first female Secretary General of the IPU in its 137 years history. This achievement further demonstrated the growing global commitment towards gender equality and women's leadership. Madam Speaker, as we approach the conclusion of our mandate of the 13th National Assembly, this report serves as a reminder of the progress that has been achieved through your visionary leadership, parliamentary diplomacy, and collective commitment to democratic governance. I wish to commend you and all members of the delegation for the ably representing Zambia at the international level for promoting interests and values of our nation. I therefore urge this August House to adopt the report of the Zambian delegation to the 152 IPU Assembly held in Istanbul, Turkey. Madam Speaker, I beg to move.
Thank you very much. Does the seconder wish to speak now or later?
Now, Madam Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Nalolo.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I rise to second the motion, ably moved by Mr. Harry Kamboni, first Vice President of the Interparliamentary Union Zambia National Group, on the adoption of the report of the Zambia delegation to the 152nd IPU and related meetings held in Istanbul, Turkey from 15th to 19th April under the theme Nurturing Hope, Securing Peace and Ensuring Justice for Future Generations. Madam Speaker, allow me from the onset to commend the delegation ably led by your honorable office for representing Zambia with distinction at this global parliamentary forum. The theme of the Assembly was both timely and profound because it challenged parliaments across the world to reflect on how they make decisions that affect the future. Madam Speaker, my contribution will focus on two critical areas discussed during the Assembly at each side meetings, mainly youth inclusion in parliamentary processes and climate change. Madam Speaker, I was privileged to attend two side meetings and speak at these two side meetings as a keynote speaker on youth participation and climate change. Madam Speaker, the future belongs to the youth. In Zambia, young people constitute the majority of our population, over 70%. However, despite their numerical strength, many young people remain underrepresented in governance systems. During the deliberations at the IPU Assembly, the consensus of parliaments was that parliaments must create deliberate pathways for meaningful youth participation. In this regard, Madam Speaker, I wish to commend the Zambian Parliament for passing the historic Bill Amendment number 7, which introduces youth quotas and for other minority groups, people with disabilities and women. Madam Speaker, this historic constitutional amendment underscores the commitment of the Zambian Parliament in being part of the global conversation on youth inclusion. Madam Speaker, the second issue I wish to address is climate change. Climate change continues to pose a serious threat to food security, water resources, and economic stability. Madam Speaker, during the sidelines of the 152nd IPU Assembly, I participated in a side meeting on global methane rules and the workshop of ocean and climate change. Madam Speaker, the methane workshop highlighted the urgent need for countries to be able to make commitments to reduce methane emissions as one of the fastest ways to effectively slow global warming. It was noted, Madam Speaker, that methane is significantly potent than carbon dioxide. Madam Speaker, for Zambia, this has direct relevance considering our urban waste challenges, agricultural activities, and energy. Madam Speaker, arising from this workshop, I wish to propose, among other things, that there is need to strengthen oversight on waste management and systems in our local authorities. Poor waste disposal practices contribute significantly to methane emissions. Madam Speaker, during the workshop on oceans and climate change, we were reminded that although some countries are landlocked or land-linked as they may be, the health of oceans remained a global concern because oceans regulate climate systems, rainfall patterns, and biodiversity. The workshop called upon parliamentary strengthening of environmental legislation and international climate cooperation to promote sustainable management of water resources. Madam Speaker, for Zambia, the workshop was very important, equally important, despite being landlocked. As you may be aware that we do have wetlands, rivers, and water bodies that deserve the commitment on climate change practices. Madam Speaker, climate adaptation measures should also be mainstreamed into national development planning. Madam Speaker, the resolutions from this workshop reaffirmed that Parliament had a central role to play in advancing climate action. Madam Speaker, from this workshop on methane rules, your Parliament, on the 21st of April, supported a motion unreservedly urging the Executive to develop a methane abatement strategy, which shows that these conversations at the Interparliamentary Union are not just about rhetoric, but translating the conversations on global climate change to practical solutions at home. Madam Speaker, as I conclude, I would like to state that the engagements and resolutions from the 152nd IPU Assembly provide valuable lessons that can strengthen our democratic governance, youth participation, and climate resilience. I therefore fully support the motion and urge this Honourable House to adopt the report of the Zambian delegation to the 152nd IPU Assembly and related meetings. Madam Speaker, I would like to conclude my debate that as we draw to the adjournment sine die of this August House, to wish my honourable colleagues all the best as they seek re-elections, and farewell to those who have decided not to come back. Madam Speaker, when all is said and done, I beg to second this report. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much. Any further debate? The Honourable Member for Lukulu East.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I will not be long. I just want to comment by way of supporting the report of our colleagues who were part of the delegation to the IPU summit that was held in Turkey, Istanbul. Madam Speaker, I had the privilege to attend the same IPU summit on account of the fact that the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association is a permanent observer of the Inter-Parliamentary Union, and I was mandated to attend this very important conference. Madam Speaker, the IPU is the oldest interparliamentary body that serves to promote parliamentary diplomacy, to strengthen parliaments, and generally to build the capacity of members of parliament to be very, very effective, first in their own countries, and secondly, also to be able to appreciate the role and nature of evolving parliaments, the nature of parliaments in today's highly globalized and complex society. In so doing, Madam Speaker, it's very important also to notice the role that African parliaments are actually playing at a global stage. As you all know, that today the head or the leader of the IPU is a parliamentarian from Tanzania, who is also the former speaker, that is Honorable Tulia Ackson, our neighbor here in Tanzania. And also at the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association, this parliament has the honor also to head the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association. So that is how important our African parliaments are beginning to occupy at a global stage. And I was very proud to see you, Madam Speaker, with your members, taking up various roles at this very important conference, especially the role that Honorable Kamboni plays in the Human Rights Committee, which looks after the human rights abuses of members of parliament around the world, including those that are being victimized in one way or another due to their political beliefs or because of differences in country, politically that is. And this is a very, very important standing committee at IPU, and I think that those of us in the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association have a lot to learn from the IPU in this regard, because we don't have a specific organ that deals with human rights and peace. Madam Speaker, as you know, in the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association, there are 56 member countries, and they are also members of the IPU. So it's very important for us to attend these meetings, to be able to collaborate further and exchange ideas and notes. Madam Speaker, I noticed at this very important conference that the IPU is not shy to voice out its concerns when it comes to peace and security. I noticed many of the speakers, one after another, spoke very vehemently on the need for world peace in view of what was happening between Russia and Ukraine, and also what was happening in Israel, the involvement of the US and many others. And many of the speakers and others called on for a return to multilateralism, a return to the respect for international law, as opposed to unilateralism where some of the world powers are trying to veer off some of the earlier commitments made by the United Nations to be able to drive peace and security, to be able to drive consensus, to make the world a safer place, and not allow one country to drive its own agenda willy-nilly everywhere else without regard to international law. And that, I thought, was very, very positive. It was also nice to see you, Madam Speaker, deliver your speech at this very important summit. And, Madam Speaker, there's something I want to say which I want to compare with this Parliament. The IPU elected its Secretary General at this conference, and they chose a homegrown member of staff who had risen through the ranks in IPU, had served for 20 years, and eventually elected her to take over. And the day when we were ratifying Mrs. Mayak, I thought that that was very, very positive, because it was a worthy appointment where we looked at within the organization. It is important to identify talent from within the organization, because it not only does it afford institutional memory, but it also ensures that the various changes that are about to take place will very most likely be understood by a member of staff who has risen through the ranks. If you look at our Parliament, we are realigning various departments. We are creating new parliamentary departments, such as the Institute for Democracy and Parliamentary Practice. So many things, an expanded Parliament that is going to be here. And therefore, we needed extremely what we did, as the IPU has done, by identifying from itself. And finally, all the IPU members electing Madam Anda Philippe from Romania. And on behalf of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association, we would like to congratulate her, and we think it was a worthy election. We also want to applaud the role that Martin Chugong has played for so many years in shepherding the IPU. And I think as his time has come to an end, it's important that we give a handshake to him and wish him well in his future endeavors. Madam Speaker, I want on a personal note to thank you for the support, and together with my colleagues, that you have continued to render to me in the last 1.5 years that I've been at the helm of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association. No doubt, without your support, Madam Speaker, and the support of my colleagues, it would have been difficult for me to manage the 9 regions of the Commonwealth from here in Lusaka. So I thought I should say this, and thank you very much, and urge many of my colleagues as we come back to participate in some of these interparliamentary bodies, such as the IPU, such as the CPA, such as the SADC Parliamentary Forum, and many others. By the way, there are many others which you can participate in order to broaden your knowledge of parliamentarism and also parliamentary practice. With these few remarks, Madam Speaker, I want to thank you, and you have acquainted yourself with your staff, whom, Madam Speaker, I also want to place on record my utmost appreciation of the role that our staff here at Parliament plays, right from the seniors and all the way in facilitating the work that we do here in the House and also on these delegations that we go to. I thought I would not end without alluding to that fact. Madam Speaker, I thank you.
Thank you very much. Any further debate? I see none. The Honourable Member for Kalomo, wind-up debate.
Madam Speaker, I would like to thank the seconder and Dr. Kalila for a very elaborate speech. Thank you very much.
Order, honourable members. I put the question. The question is that this House adopts the report of the Zambian delegation to the 152nd Interparliamentary Union IPU Assembly and related meetings held in Istanbul, Turkey, from 15th to 19th April 2026 for the 5th session of the 13th National Assembly, laid on the table of the House on Sunday, 10th May 2026. As many as are of that opinion say aye. Aye. Of the contrary, say no. The ayes have it. The ayes have it. The question is resolved in the affirmative. Next motion, the Honourable Member for Iteji.
Madam Speaker, I beg to move that this House adopt the report of the Committee on Local Governance, Housing and Chiefs Affairs on the report of the Auditor General on the audit of accounts of local authorities for the financial year that ended on 31st December 2024, laid on the table of the House on 10th May 2026.
Thank you. Is the motion seconded?
Yes, Madam Speaker, duly seconded.
Seconded by the Honourable Member for Kamfinsa. The question is that this House adopts the report of the Committee on Local Governance, Housing and Chiefs Affairs on the report of the Auditor General on the audit of accounts of local authorities for the financial year ended 31st December 2024 for the 5th session of the 13th National Assembly, laid on the table of the House on Sunday, 10th May 2026. Any debate? The Honourable Member for Iteji.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, pursuant to Standing Order 206 of the National Assembly Standing Orders 2024, the committee was tasked to scrutinize the report of the Auditor General on the accounts of local authorities for the financial year that ended 31st December 2024. Madam Speaker, the committee notes that a significant number of local authorities attained unqualified audit opinions during the period under review. Madam Speaker, this demonstrates that some councils are making commendable progress in strengthening financial management systems and adherence to the public finance regulations. However, Madam Speaker, the committee remains deeply concerned by the persistent and recurring weaknesses in financial management, procurement procedures, project implementation, asset management, and revenue collection across several local authorities in the country. The committee observed numerous cases of unsupported payments, unretired interest, irregular procurements, weak internal controls, delayed completion of projects, failure to remit statutory obligations, and poor management of public assets. These weaknesses, Madam Speaker, continue to expose public resources to abuse, inefficiency, and waste, thereby undermining service delivery to the people. In this regard, the committee strongly urges all controlling officers and the local authorities across the country to ensure that there is strict adherence to the provisions of the Public Finance Management Act number 1 of 2018, the Public Procurement Act number 8 of 2020, and the other relevant laws and regulations that governs public resource management. The committee further calls for enhanced supervision, enforcement of internal controls, and timely implementation of audit recommendations in order to promote accountability and prudent utilization of public funds. Madam Speaker, the committee further observed that inadequate staffing levels, particularly in finance, engineering, procurement, and the legal departments across the councils continues to constrain the shortage of qualified personnel has negatively affected project supervision, financial reporting, contract management, and legal compliance. The committee therefore urges the Treasury, the Local Government Service Commission, and the Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development to expedite the recruitment and the deployment of key personnel and strengthen institutional capacities across local authorities. Madam Speaker, the committee also notes government's ongoing efforts to improve revenue mobilization, automating financial management systems, and strengthening decentralization programs across initiatives such as the Zambia Devolution Program and the Smart Zambia. The committee acknowledges that these interventions, they have the potential to significantly enhance efficiency, transparency, and accountability in the local authorities. However, the committee urges government to expedite the harmonization and the integration of ICT systems across councils and strengthen monitoring and oversight mechanisms to ensure that these reforms yield the intended outcomes. Madam Speaker, arising from its deliberations, the committee made various recommendations aimed at strengthening internal controls, improving project implementation, enhancing financial accountability, and ensuring that there is prudent utilization of public resources. The committee has further resolved to await progress reports on matters where investigations, recoveries, disciplinary actions, and collective measures remain outstanding. Matters such as what measures the Local Government Service Commission will implement to fill the 4,370 vacant positions in the local authorities. As I conclude, Madam Speaker, allow me to convey the committee's sincere appreciation to all the stakeholders who appeared before it and provided both local and written submissions during its deliberations. The committee also wishes to thank your office and the Office of the Clerk of the National Assembly for the invaluable technical and administrative support rendered throughout the committee's work. Madam Speaker, I beg to move.
Thank you very much. Does the seconder wish to speak now or later?
Definitely now, Madam Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Kamfinsa.
Madam Speaker, as I second this very, very important motion to adopt this report, Madam Speaker, it is important to note that this is a report, an audited statement report, year ending December 2024. Madam Speaker, one of the mandates of Auditor General's Office is to be able to send auditors to all the councils across Zambia. When they arrive at a council, Madam Speaker, they would have already notified the local authority that they are coming to do an audit. And obviously, it's the responsibility of the controlling officer to be able to respond to the audit queries. Normally, Madam Speaker, there's a 14-day period that is given to a local authority to be able to respond to the audit queries. So Auditor General will pick out the issues, and then within 14 days, it is expected, Madam Speaker, that the local authority, if the query is on Director Engineering, if the query is on the Director of Public Health, the local authority is supposed to respond within 14 days. The audit queries that our committee was able to refer to, Madam Speaker, are those audit queries that were not resolved when the auditors visited our respective local authorities. And I want to therefore thank Chair for moving the motion. Madam Speaker, some of the things that I wish to refer to that were highlighted, which require the attention, obviously, of the executive arm of government. Madam Speaker, 605 workers were employed beyond the approved staff establishment. So, Madam Speaker, you go to a council, you add another council, you find that 605 workers were reporting for work, when in actual fact, those positions they were reporting on, Madam Speaker, were already occupied. How much money did government have to spend because of the excess number of workers, 49 million kwacha, in one financial year, Madam Speaker? Imagine, Madam Speaker, two people occupying one position. You have a director of engineering and you have another director of engineering who can't be taken to another local authority. Yet, the council now has to pay two people for the same duties. How much money did government lose? 49 million kwacha. This is in the Auditor General's report, and our recommendation, Madam Speaker, is that the Local Government Service Commission should stop sending workers to councils that already have the establishment. There are councils where these MPs are coming from, where they need workers. That is where we need to send our workers. Where we know that there is demand for a quantity surveyor, Madam Speaker, that is where we need to send those officers, so that government does not spend 49 million kwacha. Madam Speaker, this is a huge sum of money. Madam Speaker, on one hand, you have excess workers. On the other hand, Madam Speaker, you have young men and women who are not confirmed. Someone is reporting for work beyond the period for probation. Over 172 workers, Madam Speaker, were reporting for work without being confirmed as required by law. We did get an assurance from the Local Government Service Commission that issues of unconfirmed workers reporting for work, Madam Speaker, will be attended to. We hope that the 2025 report, because this is 2024, meaning there's a 2025 report that will be coming, Madam Speaker, to your committee. We hope that there will be a difference in terms of the number of workers that are not confirmed but are reporting for work. Madam Speaker, quickly, irregular payments. Madam Speaker, there are three categories of irregular payments by our councils. Imprest, Madam Speaker. A worker picks up 10,000 kwacha, goes for an assignment, they don't retire the imprest. They don't explain how the money has been used. The total amount of money of unretired imprest, Madam Speaker, 435,000 kwacha. Unretired imprest, irregular payment, delayed disbursement of funds. Madam Speaker, when you put all these things together, we are looking at cash withdrawals exceeding 682,000. And these are the issues I was raising yesterday, Madam Speaker. Imagine if we had a very effective internal audit department. I don't think that irregular payments would be made. I don't think that people would get impressed, Madam Speaker, without retiring it. These are issues of basic systems in accounting. And I hope that Acting Minister of Local Government is taking note of some of these very, very important concerns. Madam Speaker, very quickly, another issue that was picked in the report is the issue of unserviced pieces of land. Madam Speaker, councils are advertising pieces of land. People are paying for the pieces of land. But when they go to quickly begin developing their pieces of land, Madam Speaker, they find that there are no access roads. This is an audit query. The Auditor General Office was able to pick this issue. And one of our observations, Madam Speaker, we don't need Auditor General to pick that as an issue. The council has to resolve the problem. You know that you've got 300 plots that you want to advertise. Madam Speaker, before the advert is run, there's a fund under the Ministry of Lands called Land Development Fund. Council should apply for that funding, Madam Speaker. Open up the roads and then advertise the pieces of land. In an ideal situation, Madam Speaker, this is not supposed to be an audit query. This is something that councils can resolve. And I hope that Minister of Local Government, you've taken note of that important issue. Lastly, Madam Speaker, staff obligations. Madam Speaker, we have the LASIF bill, which will be coming today for consideration. Madam Speaker, LASIF is the pension fund for workers in councils. Madam Speaker, according to your report, LASIF staff obligations, 4.3 billion kwacha, owed by 110 councils. 4.3 billion kwacha. Madam Speaker, I appeal to the Minister of Finance. I know that LASIF has not been admitting new members. Because it has not been admitting new members, Madam Speaker, there's no money in the account to pay off council retirees. So what is happening, Madam Speaker? One retiree reaches 55 years old Madam Speaker, because there is no money to pay the retiree, what happens is that that person is retained on the payroll according to the Constitution of Zambia. Madam Speaker, this can be resolved. We pay off the retirees. I'm happy that one of the reforms we are going to see under LASIF is the admission of new members. Because if we add new members on LASIF, Madam Speaker, while those are exiting, those are entering, it becomes very easy, Madam Speaker, for retirees to be paid their pension funds. Minister of Finance, I hope that there will be budgetary allocation to be able to sort out some of the liquidity challenges that the pension fund for local authorities is facing. Madam Speaker, the recommendations are very clear. Our role as a committee is to pick the issues and prescribe solutions. There is no need for us to sit for so many days, 60 days, Madam Speaker, without recommendations. Our recommendations are very clear. We need to put systems in place. We need to ensure that councils become centers of excellence. Madam Speaker, the people of Kamfinsa duly second this motion, seeking the adoption of your report. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much. Any further debate? The Honourable Member for Lunte.
Madam Speaker, thank you so much. I would like to appreciate my two honourable colleagues, the mover and seconder of this motion. Madam Speaker, the mover said that there are several councils which received unqualified reports, painting a good picture. I will take an example of Shibuyunji Town Council, which is on page 107 of the report. Shibuyunji Council, the first expression you'll see is that audit opinion unqualified. That means this is a clean report, Madam Speaker, unqualified, beautiful report. But listen to the issues which are on Shibuyunji Town Council. Madam, adverse performance on locally generated revenue. The other issues will include failure to collect revenue. Okay, failure to use 5% on locally generated funds. Unaccounted for fuel. Failure to fill vacant position. Non-maintenance of properties, Madam Speaker. Non-settlement of statutory and other obligations amounting to 6 million kwacha, non-settlement of staff obligations. Now, this is unqualified. This is a town council which received a clean report from the Auditor General, Madam Speaker. Now, that is just one example. There are 116 districts. So if you have these issues in councils, but Auditor General still tells you these are clean performances, then you should have a problem. Madam Speaker, you will see from this report that there are several issues which require to be looked at. For example, when you go to Mulobezi is on page 29. They are talking about, delayed completion of Sivisi Bridge, persistent and recurrent weaknesses, Madam Speaker, in the system of councils cannot tell you that such councils deserve unqualified audit reports. I think that if the auditor is serious, all of these councils should receive qualifications, and the whole report, the whole financial report for the council should be a qualified report. But we talk about the standards that have been set. The standards of rhetoric are very high. And you can sense even from this chamber that obviously none of these councils deserve to walk away with a clean report. But today we are working with a clean report, and anybody who heard the mover today will hear that several of these councils are clean. But unfortunately, the reality is that there are serious problems. Madam Speaker, you cannot fail to retire impressed if you know that impressed is money dedicated to a program. When you finish the program, go back to the office and retire. Why are you failing to retire? That should tell you that the money has been misapplied or misused, and deliberately so. If you go, Madam, to Nkeema, you will find, failure to provide sanitation at a market. and they name the market Capriv Market. Madam Speaker, how can you fail to provide sanitation at a market? This is terrible for the people operating at that market. This is terrible for the people who are going, to conduct business and also to transact by way of buying whatever they may wish to be buying. But you see, overemployment, and the seconder ably illustrates that 605 people overemployment in councils where you are failing to fill vacancies. Now, if you have vacancies, for example, in this council, why don't you just employ where you have vacancies? You go and start lumping people where they are not needed. You go and start duplicating positions. So what does that do to your treasury? What does that do to your PEMIC, the payroll, Madam Speaker, for government? A government that we say they have kept over 400 people in holding positions, duplicating positions. And then in the council's multiplication, you use a multiplier on employment. This is terrible for the Republic of Zambia, Madam Speaker. But what should pain most of us is that the people who are paying for these bad services are taxpayers. I keep on saying, feel sorry. If you think these things are okay, feel sorry for the people who are funding these operations. The people you are taxing, Madam Speaker, the Minister of Finance, in one of his declarations, they were saying, we will now start taxing more consumers in order to fund what? Councils. Which councils? These ones which have overemployed. These ones who can't even, prepare valuation rolls. If you don't prepare valuation rolls, Madam Speaker, as a council, you can't collect, proper rates for what you possess in that district. You are not collecting rates on account of your failure to produce rolls, but yet you want people to be taxed more, consumers to be taxed more in order to fund these inefficiencies. Madam Speaker, I find this report very disheartening. I find this government operation extremely disheartening, and I feel government must do something, and do that something now, so that you remove all of these deficiencies. This is delinquency of the highest order, and it should not happen in a government which has got systems. By the way, there is a very strong temptation in blaming UNIP or even MMD and PF. But this is a 2024 report. 2024 report is a UPND government report. These transactions we're talking about happened in this UPND government. Therefore, UPND government, I'm urging you, do something. Make the councils work better for the people so that the people can be able to get decent service for the taxes that they are paying. Madam Speaker, this report has got too much to even, feel, to feel or to take a tranquilizer about. You cannot take a tranquilizer when you are sitting with this kind of information, lack of firefighting equipment. How can you have a council which does not have, a firefighting equipment? What will happen if a fire breaks out at a market? At a market which has no sanitation like the Capriv market, Madam Speaker. The people are suffering, no market, they are going in the bush. Even when a simple fire, comes up, you can't quench the fire. It is just terrible. Madam Speaker, this report has exposed the UPND government. And the UPND government, the few days that they still have, those in the executive, should be able to do something. Let a new government, when it comes in, it comes and find at least a better system which can promote better quality of service delivery. Madam Speaker, I wish to support the adoption of this report. As I said yesterday, what do? You just do, it's procedural. This transaction is procedure. So let's do the procedure, Madam Speaker. I wish to thank you again.
The Honourable Member for Shuangandu.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker, for also allowing me to make a few comments on the motion moved to adopt the report from the Committee on Local Governance, Housing and Chiefs Affairs. Madam Speaker, Going through this report and the report that we went through yesterday, you find that the challenges are more the same. And now I can acknowledge what the Honorable MP for Kamfinsa, who belongs to this committee, highlighted yesterday. And therefore, we need to get to a space where we can stop only commenting, lamenting, frowning about these perennial challenges that are coming out of the Auditor General's report. Because it's business as usual, Madam Speaker. Come next report, we shall be lamenting and frowning about the same challenges. And therefore, we must strive to get to a space where we start looking at the councils differently. Because councils, local authorities are the institutions closer to the people than central government. And therefore, it's important that there is prudence in the management of the resources that are channeled to the local authorities and ensure that there is proper accountability. Because some of the things your committee was dealing with is just basically ignoring procedure, be it in payments. Look at the seemingly organized confusion that is pertaining to programs like Cash for Work. Here, there are local authorities, most of the local authorities have been cited for failure to provide acquittals for the dispersed funds in the Cash for Work project. Now, they claim, obviously, that they have to strike a balance between the electronic transfers of funds from the councils to direct beneficiaries. But in between, you can only imagine what sort of accounting systems they are developing. And it's very easy for people to manipulate the system. Because if you are saying you can't find acquittals because we are paying people directly, and then you can't have the records properly, what will stop people from duplicating lists of beneficiaries? And that's why you find that on one hand, the local authority will be saying we have paid, then you find other beneficiaries complaining that they haven't received their dues. So, Madam Speaker, these issues that can easily be addressed by the councils. Issues like irregular payments of hardship allowance. Just failure to calculate and make sure that people get what is due to them, people take advantage. But the worst one, Madam Speaker, is failure to monitor, evaluate the projects. I did speak to this matter even yesterday, and it's coming out very prominent in this report, especially on incomplete projects. These are projects that are contracted, Madam Speaker, and contractors, it's free for all. When in actual fact, these contracts must have proper contract obligations which will compel the contractors to ensure that they complete the works. If in an ideal situation they had been made to submit performance guarantees, advance payment guarantees. Now you find that it's free for all. They are given these contracts, and these contracts end up in abeyance, and no one cares. No one is held accountable. A contractor can abandon a site without caring on the penalties that they must suffer for not completing the works. So these are the things, Madam Speaker, that we need to address. Yes, we need to support the local contractors to build capacity, but we cannot do that at the expense of short works, because at the end of the day, it's the people who are getting the raw deal. So, Madam Speaker, these are issues that local authorities should be addressing. We spoke yesterday about the expanded CDF. The lack of accountability measures is the same now, even with the funds. What Development Fund. In many cases, you find councils holding to this money without transferring to where it is supposed to be, in the wards, where our actual citizens are, especially those of us who are in rural constituencies, like Shwangando and many rural constituencies. So if these funds are not being disbursed, for what purpose is it being released? So, Honorable Minister of Finance, these are the issues that require serious follow-ups. The other one is the issue that Honorable Kangombe spoke to briefly regarding the statutory obligations. Madam Speaker, you find that most of our local authorities, it's business, it's normal for failure to remit statutory obligations to NAPSA and other pension schemes. Yes, there are some reforms that are coming regarding the local authority superannuation fund, RASIF, that Honorable Kangombe spoke about. But it's business, Madam Speaker, because even when there was that issue of partial withdrawal, the workers in the local authorities could not benefit, because every time they attempted to try and go and access that, they would be told, your local authorities are not remitting. So it's important that we find a way. I know that they've done some arrangements where these statutory obligations are being deducted at source. It shouldn't be like that. For established institutions, they must know their obligations, and they must budget for these obligations. I know it's normal for councils to be with wishful thinking. Their budgets that have been approved by the councils, I don't even know at what point the performance of those budgets councils prepare are taken into account. Because you see councils sitting and budgeting, and you go and look critically, they don't even know where the money is going to come from, but they will have these ambitious figures appearing in their budget, and they sit there and say, oh, yeah, the budget is passed. So, Madam Speaker, we need to pay attention where it's due. And the local authorities are the closest to the people in terms of governance. So we must ensure that all the resources that are going there are properly accounted for and are properly utilized. Madam Speaker, I thank you.
Thank you. Any further debates? Time for honorable ministers who wish to respond to do so. For the Honorable Minister of Water Development and Sanitation. Acting.
I'm acting local government,
Okay,
Madam.
okay.
I'm winding up debate.
Responding.
I'm responding, Madam.
Thank you.
So I'm responding. Wait, I respond. So let me thank the Committee on Local Governance, Housing and Chiefs Affairs on the report of the Auditor General on the audit of accounts of local authorities, indeed for the year 31st December 2024. I'm glad that the objectives of the report, which included obvious assessment and to assess the management and utilization of public resources by local authorities, to scrutinize the responses and submissions from accounting authorities, and obviously to identify weaknesses, financial irregularities and challenges affecting accountability, transparency and service delivery in local authorities. Several issues have been brought up, including quality debates from members of the House. Queries including qualified and adverse audit opinions, unspent funds recommendations, budget variances, failure to bank revenues, under collection of revenue, bad quality works from local contractors. These are issues which have been brought up, and I want to assure members of this House that the UPND government will not be shy to bring out issues in the way funds are being spent, issues in local government, because we have solutions to these issues. I want to inform all members that all the issues they brought up indeed will be looked at so that we resolve the issues. Madam Speaker, with these few words, I support the committee's report. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Member for Iteji, winding up debate.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My task is very simple, Madam Speaker, is to thank the members that have debated and to thank the Minister for the assurance that we are heading somewhere and the issues will be addressed, and it's evident that the issues are being addressed. Thank you.
Thank you. I put the question. The question is that this House adopts the report of the Committee on Local Governance, Housing and Chiefs Affairs, on the report of the Auditor General, on the audit of accounts of local authorities for the financial year ended 31st December 2024, for the 5th session of the 13th National Assembly, laid on the table of the House on Sunday, 10th May 2026. As many as are of that opinion say aye. Of the contrary say no. The ayes have it. The ayes have it. The question is resolved in the affirmative. Next motion, the Honorable Member for Momba.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I beg to move that this House adopts the report of the Planning and Budgeting Committee on the 2026 Annual Borrowing Plan Amendment for the 5th session of the 13th National Assembly that was laid on the table of the House on Friday, 8th May 2026.
Is the motion seconded?
Yes, Madam Speaker.
Seconded by the Honorable Member for Kafulafuta. The question is that this House adopts the report of the Planning and Budgeting Committee on the consideration of the 2026 Annual Borrowing Plan Amendment for the 5th session of the 13th National Assembly, laid on the table of the House on Sunday, 10th May 2026. Any debate? The Honorable Member for Momba.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. In accordance with Standing Order 175.1 and the terms of reference of the committee, as provided in Standing Order 204, number 4 of the National Assembly of Zambia, Standing Order 2024, the committee was assigned to scrutinize the 2026 Annual Borrowing Plan Amendment. In carrying out this task, Madam Speaker, the committee received both oral and written submissions from stakeholders. Madam Speaker, the 2026 Annual Borrowing Plan Amendment was submitted to the National Assembly of Zambia following the presentation of the Supplementary Estimates of Expenditure number 1 of 2026 by the Minister of Finance and National Planning, presented on Thursday, 30th April 2026. The amendment was necessary because the revised 2026 budget has a higher deficit than the one earlier approved by this House. Madam, the original 2026 Annual Borrowing Plan authorized the government to borrow 21.62 billion kwacha from the domestic market and to use 12.87 billion kwacha from external loans that had already been contracted. It did not provide for the contraction of any new external loans in 2026. The amendment, Madam Speaker, therefore revises the borrowing framework approved by the National Assembly for 2026. It provides for additional borrowing of 7.5 billion kwacha from the domestic market and a new external loan amounting to US 252.43 million from the African Development Bank. The loan is intended to finance the multinational Lobito corridor project, specifically the construction of the road from Solwezi in northwestern province to Jimbe at the border between Zambia and Angola. Madam Speaker, stakeholders supported the approval of the amendment. They recognize the need to finance unavoidable expenditure obligations and important infrastructure. They also noted that the Lobito corridor project could promote trade, transport connectivity, mineral export logistics, regional integration, and the overall economic growth. Stakeholders further noted that Zambia's debt position had improved, with the public debt ratio to GDP declining from 117.7% in 2024 to about 91% at the end of December 2025. However, Zambia remains at a high risk of debt distress, and the debt to GDP ratio is still above the 65% limit provided for in the Public Debt Management Act number 15 of 2022. Madam Speaker, this cap is supposed to be effective in 2027. Madam Speaker, following its scrutiny of the amendment and the submissions made by stakeholders, the committee makes the following observations and recommendations. Madam Speaker, the committee observes with concern that the proposed loan for the Lobito corridor project was not accompanied by detailed financial and economic appraisals showing the full cost of the project, Zambia's total financial obligation, the expected benefits of the project, and the project's return on investments. As a result, the National Assembly could not fully assess whether the benefits of the project justifies the cost of the loan. In view of this, Madam Speaker, the committee strongly recommends that all future requests for government borrowing to finance capital investment projects should be supported by financial and economic appraisals. These appraisals should be submitted to the National Assembly during its scrutiny of the annual borrowing plan. Madam Speaker, the committee further observes that the additional domestic borrowing may increase refinancing and interest rate risks. This is important because demand for government bonds was low in the March and April 2026 auctions. If demand remains weak, the government may be forced either to accept higher interest rates or to borrow more through the short-term instruments. Both options, Madam Speaker, would increase the cost and the risk of borrowing. In this regard, the committee recommends that the Ministry of Finance and National Planning undertakes liability management operations where necessary to spread debt repayment over a longer period and avoid heavy repayments falling due at the same time. Madam Speaker, as I conclude, I wish to express my sincere appreciation of the committee and to all stakeholders who have provided valuable input during the deliberations. The committee also extends gratitude to you, Madam Speaker, and to the clerk of the National Assembly for the support and the guidance rendered throughout this process. Madam Speaker, I beg to move.
Thank you very much. Does the seconder wish to speak now or later?
Now, Madam Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Kafulafuta.
Madam Speaker, I rise to second the motion ably moved by the chairperson of the Planning and Budgeting Committee on the report of the Committee on the 26th Annual Borrowing Plan Amendment. Madam Speaker, in seconding the motion, I wish to emphasize a few issues that are important to the consideration of this amendment. The first one is fiscal discipline and debt sustainability. Madam Speaker, the amendment comes at a time when the country has made progress in restoring macro stability and improving its debt position. The reduction in public debt to GDP ratio is encouraging. However, the country remains at high risk of debt distress. This means every additional borrowing decision must be treated with caution and must clearly support economic growth, revenue generation, and debt sustainability. Madam Speaker, the additional domestic borrowing of 7.5 billion is intended to help finance and revise 2026 budget. While this responds to genuine fiscal pressures, the committee is of the view that borrowing should not become an easy way of financing recurrent expenditure. In simple terms, recurrent expenditure is day-to-day spending, not investment spending. It includes items such as salaries, allowances, and administrative costs, which must be paid every year. Such spending should ideally be financed from reliable revenues, not borrowing. This is important because borrowing for ordinary expenditure can create pressure on future budgets and reduce resources available for development. Number two, Madam Speaker, domestic market sustainability. Madam Speaker, the committee notes that the amendment moves the financing mix closer to the domestic financing target set out in the medium-term debt management strategy. Madam Speaker, I'm being disturbed by those who are talking in the background.
Honorable members, if you have to discuss, please, can you tone down or step out and have a chat, come back, join us.
Thank
Please,
you very much,
can we
Madam
reduce?
Speaker.
May the honorable member continue.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. This is positive because increased domestic borrowing can reduce exposure to exchange rate risks. However, this strategy must be managed carefully. If the government borrows too much from the domestic market, it may reduce resources available for private sector lending or push interest rates upwards. This would affect business, households, and economic recovery. Madam Speaker, it is therefore important that the Ministry of Finance and National Planning avoids over-reliance on domestic borrowing in order to limit the risk of crowding out the private sector. Number three, Madam Speaker, project readiness. Madam Speaker, I also wish to emphasize the importance of linking borrowing to project readiness. Loans should not be contracted merely because financing is available. Projects must be ready for implementation. This means that designs, procurement plans, land access approvals, disbursement conditions, and implementation arrangements should be in place before loans are contracted. This will reduce delayed disbursement. This will reduce delayed disbursements, commitment fees, and cost overruns. Number four, Madam Speaker, value for money. Madam Speaker, Lobito Corridor project is an important regional infrastructure project. It has potential to support trade, mineral exports, transport connectivity, and economic transformation. However, for projects of this nature, the National Assembly must be provided with sufficient information to determine whether the loan represents value for money. This includes the full project costs, expected benefits, fiscal returns, implementation timelines, and risks. Such information strengthens oversight and helps ensure that public debt is used for productive investment. Madam Speaker, debt can support development when it is used carefully, transparently, and for projects that generate clear economic and social returns. However, debt can also become a burden when it finances poorly prepared projects, recurrent expenditure, or activities that do not generate sufficient benefits for the country. This is why recommendations of the committee are important. Madam Speaker, with these few remarks, I support the adoption of the report of the committee on the 2026 annual borrowing plan. Madam Speaker, I beg to second. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much. Any further debate? The Honourable Member for Shuangandu.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker, for allowing me to make a comment on the report moved by our chairperson of the Planning and Budgeting Committee. Madam Speaker, the Honourable Minister has come back to this August House seeking us to approve his borrowing plan. I stood here, Madam Speaker, 4 or 5 months ago when we were approving the budget, the annual borrowing plan that the minister presented to this August for this fiscal year, which was about 21.62 billion. And I did say that even as much as he was coming with that borrowing plan, it was still not going to be enough to deal with the intentions of government in this fiscal year. Here we are today, Madam Speaker. The minister is coming back to seek for approval to borrow an additional 7.5 billion in the net domestic financing over and above the 21.62 billion earlier approved for the 2026 annual in the 2026 annual borrowing plan. Madam Speaker, it is normal for government to borrow, indeed, like we have always said. And the minister has got no option if he has to fulfill some of the obligations that they've undertaken. Madam Speaker, of interest, part of this borrowing for this fiscal year is obviously to address the budget deficit, while the balance to be used to refinance domestic maturities following due. And your committee was also further informed that the constitutional amendments as approved in the year 2025, which increased the number of constituencies by 70 from 156 to 226, as well as other pressures reflected in the supplementary estimates of expenditure. Madam Speaker, even as we approve this budget, it is very clear that the proposed amounts are not going to be enough for the Honourable Minister of Finance. Because even as we were approving the budget for this fiscal year, we have got institutions that were underfunded, such as the Electoral Commission of Zambia. Their allocation was not sufficient for them to undertake this mammoth task they have of conducting general elections this year. And so, Honorable Minister, for me, it would have been good for you to just be sincere and do the actual borrowing that you need, because coming back next year, in the next the budget cycle, the time will be considered, this House will be considering the budget, we shall be dealing with another supplementary budget. It's not, this is what we were saying. You should be listening when we are saying these things. So it is very possible, Madam Speaker, because if you look at these figures and the pressure that the minister has, you can tell that he will be coming back, or the next Minister of Finance will be coming back to this August House with another supplementary budget within the same fiscal year of 2026. Some of the pressures that he has to address, Madam Speaker, and that's why government must be consistent. Some of these pressures, Madam Speaker, include the higher projected maize grain purchases undertaken in the 2025 grain marketing season, a higher than projected public service wage increase, and measures to cushion the economy from the adverse effects of the war in the Middle East. Very interesting, Madam Speaker. The last one, we don't even know how long it's going to take and how much effect this is going to have on his projections. So we just have to bear in mind that we must be expecting serious adjustment as a result of this factor. The one for the maize, I would have loved, and I'm happy you are sitting next to the Minister of Agriculture there. Madam Speaker, the Minister of Agriculture came to this August House and informed this August House that they were going to export grain to Malawi and other destinations in order to help the minister cushion that pressure that was coming for the money they were borrowing to pay the farmers for the maize produced. Now, if that was done, how come this pressure is now still on the Minister of Finance, Honorable Minister of Agriculture? We need to be consistent here. Madam Speaker, the other factor is the issue that the seconder of the motion spoke to, the value for money of the Robito corridor. Madam Speaker, we are now borrowing for us to go and contribute to that very important project. Here, as members of parliament who are approving this loan to contract, have not been availed the most needed information in order for us to look at the, to make an informed decision on approving this, this loan we are contracting. Your committee, Madam Speaker, I'll quote your committee simply. They are saying the project was aligned with broader development priorities and could strengthen the external sector if successfully implemented. However, stakeholders were concerned that the loan was not accompanied by fiscal or financial and economic appraisal to enable the National Assembly to undertake a comprehensive cost-benefit analysis before approving the loan. This limited oversight over debt contraction for capital projects. Madam Speaker, yes, it's by requirement constitutionally that we as National Assembly must participate in contracting loan in getting this country to borrow on such capital projects. But in the absence of this necessary information, how are we going to make an informed decision to approve this borrowing? So, Honorable Minister, you have got an obligation to this institution, to this August House, to make it analyze your borrowing with the necessary tools. And this is what your committee is saying. You need to assure us that as we approve this borrowing,
your time is up.
without that information, this won't be another
Thank
And
you.
another-
Your time is up, Honorable Member.
Madam Speaker, it's up, but this is a very important matter
Your
which the Honourable
time is
Minister
up.
must
You-
assure the
you are
August
given
House.
8
I submit.
minutes. Thank you. Thank you very much. The Honorable Member from Pika.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. In Swahili, Honorable Minister of Green Economy, we say asante sana. Meaning, thank you so much. Kwa kuanzia. Madam Speaker, we are back again, Madam Speaker, discussing more borrowing. More borrowing, Madam Speaker. More borrowing, Madam Speaker, and with less capability to pay back. Madam Speaker, not too long ago, before the 2021 general elections, borrowing was a campaign too, Madam Speaker. It was a campaign promise that once the UPND forms government, there would be no borrowing. They would put a moratorium on debt contraction. Madam Speaker, that was a covenant between the UPND and the Zambian people. When the PF was borrowing, Madam Speaker, they were investing in infrastructure such as airports, universities, markets, schools, roads, name it, a lot of infrastructure. You go to Chinsari, you find Chinsari General Hospital. It's a very big hospital. You go to Kalindawalo General Hospital. It's a very big hospital. You go to Petauke, Madam Speaker, you find a STEM school there, built by the borrowing which the PF was doing. You go to Kenneth Kaunda International Airport, Hari Mwanga Nkumbura, the Simon Mwansaka Pwepo in Ndola. That was as a result of borrowing. Despite that, borrowing, Madam Speaker, was condemned and demonized. A promise was even made that there would be no borrowing once the UPND forms government. However, Madam Speaker, we've been discussing borrowing in here, giving the Minister of Finance, Madam Speaker, has been coming to this August House, asking this House to give him the powers to go and borrow against their own campaign promise. Madam Speaker, here, the government is asking to borrow 7.5 billion kwacha and 252 million US dollars. That is borrowing, Madam Speaker. That is borrowing. You can call it whatever you want. It's borrowing. The same borrowing you condemned. The past 5 years, you've been borrowing against your own promise of harnessing local resources which you wanted to, and invest in national development. Madam Speaker, the same Minister of Finance who has proposed to borrow this amount of money up to today has not given the nation the reasons to why he removed export taxes on copper concentrates using statutory...
Order, Honorable Member, I guide here. Let me guide. We are discussing this report on the borrowing plan, annual borrowing plan amendment. As you debate, Honorable Member, bear in mind that there is a report from the committee that has been submitted or laid before the table of the House to aid you in your debate. There is no harm in you giving examples, but when you spend so much, 5 minutes of your time, or 4 minutes of your time, repeating yourself and talking about things that are not in the report, you are, first of all, you are squandering your time because you should use it effectively. Secondly, you are not adding value to the debate. The Honorable Member should look at how we can ensure that the Minister is accountable and this borrowing plan is made, Zambian people can benefit from it. So let's not just go fishing. You know, when you are fishing, you can get fish, frogs, small fish, big fish. Now we are not on that expedition. We are talking about the annual borrowing plan. So, Honorable Member, can you direct your mind to the report and remain relevant? You may proceed.
Madam Speaker, we are borrowing because the government is not locally mobilizing resources. The more reason why we are borrowing. Had the government not removed the 10% export tax on copper concentrates.
Order, Honorable Member from Pika. I've guided, please. You do well to follow the guidance, and we want to benefit from your contribution to this process. So remain relevant. You may proceed.
Madam Speaker, I want next time the minister not to come here as to asking this house to borrow money.
Honorable Member from Pika, I've guided. Please don't. Can I guide you further? Don't engage me. My role is to guide you on how to debate. If you have nothing valuable to add, we can go to another member who wants to debate. So you may proceed, but if you continue like that, then I'm afraid we have to move to the next honorable member. You may proceed.
The Honorable Minister of Finance, the continued borrowing that your government has undertaken the past 5 years is against your own campaign promise of putting a moratorium on debt contraction. You should have focused on mobilizing local resources by ensuring that mining companies pay due taxes to the Zambian people. The issue of giving tax holidays to mining companies are issues that make us continue borrowing as a nation.
I've guided you, keep on repeating yourself. So we'll go to the next. The Honorable Member for Lunte.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker, for according me an opportunity to speak in the representation of the people of Lunte on the report of the Planning and Budgeting Committee regarding the annual borrowing plan amendment. Madam Speaker, the borrowing is being amended. The borrowing that we approved in the 2026 budget is being amended by this plan. And the amendment is not reducing the debt, but increasing it. Madam Speaker, the Honorable Minister of Finance should not be blamed for this amendment. If anyone, including myself, has a blame to place on anybody, it has to be placed on the thinking of the UPND government. Here is what the committee has said on page 7, and that is under observations number 1. Financial and economic appraisal of capital projects. The committee observes with concern that the executive did not provide the detailed financial and economic appraisal showing a full cost, blah, 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 blah. Now, the government, which is expanding the borrowing, has failed to justify the project for which they are borrowing. Madam Speaker, I would like to state in no uncertain terms that this is extremely poor planning. And when you plan poorly, you should be sure that your execution is going to cause pain. Madam Speaker, project appraisal is important. And if you are contracting funds for the purposes of executing a project, you should know how much it's going to cost you. So let's be clear. The UPND government is unsure how much it will cost them to implement a project for which they are borrowing. That should be dangerous. I'll go to now page 6. I'll go backwards to page 6 and speak clearly on number 4, which is fiscal consolidation. Stakeholders, Madam Speaker, submitted that the additional borrowing would weaken fiscal consolidation if not carefully managed. Now, it's unfortunate. My younger brother from Umpika was talking about the promise of the moratorium on debt. And let me be clear. It was not just President Hakainde Hichilema, the opposition, who promised, but also the Minister of Finance himself. He consolidated the promise in public. Now we are talking about fiscal consolidation. And of course, he inherited debt. Therefore, the aspect of fiscal consolidation is one that can be talked about even without additional borrowing. But in this case, we are talking about 106 billion kwacha, and you add the amounts that are being borrowed now. Here is what it implies, Madam Speaker, because as we know, fiscal consolidation means keeping an eye
Just
on
for
public.
correction, the item you are looking at is 9, not 4.
Now, it's number 4, Madam.
It's number
Oh,
9.
it's number 9, yes. Number 9, Roman numerals, Madam Speaker. So what I was saying, or what I am saying, is that fiscal consolidation requires an eye, a watchful eye on public spending. Madam Speaker, a while ago I was speaking about projects in councils. They showed clearly that there's no eye on spending. Yesterday we were talking about the Auditor General's report, demonstrating that there's literally no eye on spending. Now, if you don't place your critical eye on spending as a government, be sure that you cannot achieve fiscal consolidation in as far as the public expenditure is concerned. But fiscal consolidation won't only talk about expenditure. It also talk about, domestic revenue mobilization other than financial instruments, for which the minister wishes to deploy in order to borrow locally. So you'll be talking about taxes, you'll be talking about fees, you'll be talking about all of these things. Madam, in councils, there are no valuation roles. Your report will demonstrate that. How will the government collect the necessary rates? There's no way they can do that. Madam, the young man here was talking about taxes which are being removed. Government deliberately removing taxes in order to reduce government revenue so that they can borrow. This is unfair on the people of Zambia. But for me, I will never blame this minister. I respect him and I love him. The person I blame is the UPND, because this thinking which is here, Madam, this poor thinking which is in this proposal is the thinking of the UPND government. Because let's be clear, this is a cabinet document. It's not only about Dr. Msakutwani's document. It's a cabinet document. And these ministers who are heckling here are in that cabinet, Madam. They should help him to think. They should help him to think instead of just coming to heckle here. I have seen some, good accountants, my older brother there. Help the minister to think so that when you are in cabinet, you don't produce this kind of reports which demonstrates in broad daylight that you are failing to plan projects. Madam, a government cannot fail to plan a project. You just say, this project, how much is it? We don't know. How much should we go and borrow? Let's increase borrowing to implement it. What are you going to implement, Madam Speaker? You are failing to create a toilet at a market in Capriv. You are failing, Madam Speaker, to do very, very simple things. But my older brother behind there talked about, the use of this borrowing. And he says, part of it will be used to repair, maturing securities. And then the other part will finance the fiscal deficit. Yeah, of course. But look, every borrowing is as a result of a fiscal deficit. It is telling you that you have planned to spend so much money which you don't have, which you can't generate as a government. Instead of refusing to to give tax concessions, you have offered those tax concessions in order to borrow, but on whose head, Madam Speaker? They claim they have done debt restructuring. That's what UPND claims to have done. What they have, by implication, what they have said, because all of these are odd, all of these, if you look at, they are odd. They are saying they want their children and their children's children to come and pay this debt, which they are contracting at a time when they can't even appraise projects. Madam Speaker, this is terrible for the country. But for me, I put away the Minister of Finance. He's a good man. But UPND...
You are repeating yourself, Honorable Member. You've said that several times. You can't blame... You can't give credit to somebody who is part and parcel of a process and blame the process.
Well,
you are contradicting yourself. But anyway, can you winding up?
Madam, let me just say he's doing this painfully. Look at the way he's looking. The minister is doing this painfully.
I don't think it's fair to speak on behalf of the Honorable Minister.
I know him. I know him. I've been with him for 10 years now.
The Honorable Member. The Honorable Minister will have an opportunity to respond. So please don't speak on his behalf.
Thank you, Madam. Let me just say, let's adopt the report.
Thank you.
And support UPND to borrow more. Madam Speaker, I wish to appreciate.
Thank you. There's an indication from the Honorable Member for Kalabo Central for a point of order. What's the point of order?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, my point of order lies on the basis of Article Order number 71, relevancy. Madam Speaker, the debater, the Honorable Member for Lunte, I respect him because so many reasons why I respect him. But, Madam Speaker, he was pointing, they are old. Now, you see, at some point, Madam Speaker, we need to be very realistic and very serious in life. Honorable Folunte, let him lay on the table evidence to show that old age, has no value. Madam Speaker, from the bottom of my heart, let Honorable Member for Lunte put evidence on the table. One, a country which does not have old people. Two, a country which has prospered only with people who are less than 35 years of age. Is he in order, therefore, to point at the cabinet of the UPND, which has given him the hope? Madam Speaker, can you borrow without hope? Is it not because of the prosperity of the economy that is giving hope, even him? Is he in order, therefore, to put no evidence on the table? Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much. Definitely, as the Honorable Member for Lunte was talking about age, he was out of order. Because there is nowhere in this report where he's talking about age. So he was actually out of order. He was not being relevant to the subject matter that was being debated. So the Honorable Member for Lunte, please respect other people's ages. I'm sure you also respect yours. Maybe you are young. Looks like you are still young. You are not growing. We wish you well as you continue growing younger. On a lighter note, let's make progress. The next will be the Honorable Member for Kamfinsa.
Madam Speaker, we have a report before this August House presented by the Member of Parliament for Momba on the 2026 annual borrowing plan. Madam Speaker, I was paying attention to the reason why Minister of Finance wants more money. and I went to page 2, Madam Speaker, on page 2 of your report, item 3.3, Minister of Finance, you are asking for $252 million to be able to construct a road in relation to the Lobito Corridor project. Madam Speaker, that is why the minister wants $252 million on a Lobito Corridor project. Madam Speaker, upon reading the details, I also went to the terms of this contract, and I also went to the views that were submitted by the stakeholders that were invited. Madam Speaker, I'm not a member of this committee. I'm assuming that Parliament invited stakeholders to come and appear before the committee. And this is what they said on page 6, Madam Speaker, of your report. Madam Speaker, page 6, Roman numero number 6, which reads, however, stakeholders were concerned that the loan was not accompanied by a financial and economic appraisal to enable the National Assembly to undertake a comprehensive cost-benefit analysis before approving the loan. This limited oversight over debt construction for capital projects. Madam Speaker, this is not me speaking. This is what your report is stating. The report is saying we need to borrow $252 million for a very important project. But unfortunately, there is no evidence of a cost-benefit analysis. This is very important information, Chairperson of the committee. This is what your report is saying. And Madam Speaker, I just want the Minister of Finance as he responds, because obviously he has to respond. I don't want to speculate, but Minister, I'm interested to find out. Here is the Lobito Corridor project. Madam Speaker, what is the Lobito Corridor project? The Lobito Corridor project, Madam Speaker, is about 4 critical minerals: lithium, graphite, copper, and cobalt. Moving minerals from Angola through the copper belt between Congo, Zambia, and Angola. These are the 3 countries, Madam Speaker, that are involved in the Lobito Corridor. So we want to borrow $252 million, which is important that we do the road, Madam Speaker, between Solwezi and Jimbe. That's what's in the report, that if we borrow this money, we'll do a road between Solwezi and Jimbe. Me, I'm just reading, Madam Speaker, what is in the report. So as the minister responds, because the minister wants our support for this particular annual borrowing plan, we want to have the satisfaction, Minister of Finance, we want to be sure that before we give you authority to borrow this money, is it possible that the European Union, that the United States of America, who have been anchoring this project is anchored by them, is it possible that they can provide the $252 million without us having to borrow from the Africa Development Bank? Because clearly, America, Madam Speaker, is interested in this project. They are literally driving this project, Madam Speaker. The European Union, they've put up billboards across Zambia. You come to Kitwe, Madam Speaker, you'll find EU billboards on this project. So I'm curious, Madam Speaker, why are we borrowing $252 million? Where are the sponsors of the project? The people that are supposed to provide the resources for this project. We need that assurance, Minister of Finance. The people following this conversation with no malicious intent intended, Madam Speaker, the people would want to know. The EU and the European Union have publicized the Lobito Corridor. They've said, this is our project. We want the critical minerals. We want the minerals to move faster. Madam Speaker, there is a lot of publicity. Programs have been sponsored. Documentaries have been sponsored. But today, we've been told that we should borrow $252 million, Madam Speaker. Why can't we ask the European Union to give us $252 million? Why can't we ask the American government to give us $252 million? They want the minerals to move faster. They want the minerals to move between Angola, Zambia, and Congo, Madam Speaker. So this project, I know that Zambia will benefit in terms of infrastructure. There will be a nice road that will be done somewhere. Minister, you are an advocate for private-public partnerships. Did you consider, Minister of Finance, I just want some answers before we support this proposal. Did you consider that this very important road between Jimbe border and Solwezi could be funded through a private-public partnership? Did you consider those options? Because, Minister, that is what the committee is saying. The committee is saying cost-benefit analysis information was not provided. That is what the Honourable Chair of the committee is submitting in his report. And I would want, Madam Speaker, before I take my seat, just to have the comfort, just to have the assurance that we have other options to utilize to be able to borrow, instead of borrowing $252 million to support a project that is sponsored by the European Union, to support a project that is sponsored by the American government. Let them give us $252 million so that this money, instead of borrowing for this project, we can come back, Minister, ask us to support you to borrow for some other programs that will benefit the people of Zambia. This is an important project, Madam Speaker, but according to your report, I'm just reading the report, Madam Speaker, and that is why I'm asking, Minister, give me the comfort. Tell me if there are no other options to raise this money so that we have the comfort as we leave. Tomorrow is our last day in Parliament. We want to live with the comfort that the Lobito Corridor project ideally should have been funded by the people that are pushing this agenda. Madam Speaker, I'm being requested by Honorable Mwanga that, okay, we've heard your point. I think that for emphasis sake, I have 50 seconds as I wind up. Minister of Finance, I think that my submission is based on the report. I've basically picked out what's in the report, and I want some clarification from the Minister of Finance. Why are we borrowing? Why can't we use the PPP model? Why can't we ask the European Union and the American government to give us $252 million? Madam Speaker, the people of Kamfinsa once again submit, and I thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for a good debate. But the only problem is you keep on repeating yourself, repetition. No, but if you repeat 4 or 5 times, then... So we go to the next, the Honourable Member for Luena.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity given to the people of Luena to add their voice to the debate on the floor of the House. I'm grateful to the Honourable Member for Momba who proposed, and the seconder, the Honourable Member for Kafulafuta. Madam Speaker, the report concludes by saying that the Planning and Budgeting Committee supports approval of the 2026 Annual Borrowing Plan Amendment, recognizing that it responds to legitimate financing needs arising from the revised 2026 budget. This is simple and straightforward. Madam Speaker, secondly, a point is being made here insinuating that the committee has not been satisfied in terms of how the projects to be financed from this borrowing have been appraised. Madam Speaker, on page 5, value for money of the Lobito Corridor, stakeholders recognized the strategic importance of the multinational Lobito Corridor, noting its potential to support transport connectivity, regional integration, mineral exports, logistics, trade facilitation, and economic transformation. It is in the report. Madam Speaker, an insinuation should not be created here seeking to compare the borrowing that is being undertaken by the UPND government to the reckless borrowing of the past. There is absolutely no basis for comparison. In the past, Madam Speaker, we were borrowing without capacity to pay back. This time we are borrowing with capacity to pay back, number one. Secondly, we are borrowing with a specific focus to utilize the money for the purpose for which it was borrowed. And thirdly, we are borrowing at the right cost. This, Madam Speaker, is nowhere close to what was happening in the past. So when some of our colleagues are seeking to mislead our people out there that the UPND government had said they would never borrow and therefore condemned the word borrowing altogether, that is not correct, Madam Speaker. What we always condemned was the reckless borrowing without any plan of how repayment was going to be done. We are aware, Madam Speaker, of how this government inherited a litany of projects around the country that were financed through borrowing and they could not be completed. Why? Because of poor investment appraisal of projects as well as poor planning.
Sorry, the Honorable Member for Lunte, you were given an opportunity to debate. Let the debate flow. When you were debating, nobody interjected until at the end because of what you said about old people. So let the Honorable Member for Luena debate and conclude his debate. May the Honorable Member continue. If you have a point of order, I'll give you an opportunity.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, one does not need to go very far. It is a fact that in 2020, Madam Speaker, this country defaulted on its debt obligations. And, Madam Speaker, that was as a result of borrowing without capacity to pay back. That's why when the time came to pay, Madam Speaker, the nation raised its hands and said, take us wherever you can take us. We have no capacity to pay back. Madam Speaker, it took the people of Zambia, Madam Speaker, to say no to this clueless handling of our national affairs, and they came in the UPND government, Madam Speaker, in 2021. And the first thing this government did was to actually put restrictions on itself on how the borrowing was going to be done. Hence the passing of the Public Debt Management Act in 2022. So that never again will the country ever find itself borrowing recklessly and without any plan on how to pay back the money. So where are we now, Madam Speaker? We are now in the era of responsible fiscal management, which means as we borrow, we are doing so as a disciplined strategy, a strategy that is designed to also enhance our GDP growth so that we have more capacity also to service our debt. We have not forgotten that a huge part of the this government in power over the last 5 years, Madam Speaker, has been spent trying to secure debt restructuring for the debts that were secured without a plan on how to pay back. If that had not happened, Madam Speaker, we would have been in serious problems as a country. So this borrowing is necessary because it is to invest. The significance of the Lobito Corridor, which is a regional project, is one that one can only talk about it being appraised completely when you are making a 252 million investment if you do not understand the broader picture. If a road is being constructed as part of our contribution to that corridor, it means there is a lot more work that's yet to be done. These are our commitments to this project to be successfully implemented. And when it's successfully implemented, the contribution it's going to bring to the exploitation of our natural resources, trade facilitation, as well as regional integration, Madam Speaker, will far outweigh the cost that we are incurring today. And that's the kind of vision that we need in order to secure the future of the generations after us. So even though we want to talk about old people not making decisions to benefit the future generations, that's what a responsible government should actually be doing. Yeah. To invest now for the benefit of the generations that will come after us. Madam Speaker, with these few words, as Luena constituency, we fully support this annual borrowing plan, and therefore propose that the amendment annual borrowing plan for 2026 should be supported by the whole House. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much. Honorable members, when we are debating, let's listen to the guidance that is given. I had given guidance, but I don't know where the honorable member for Shiwangandu was when I was giving that guidance. So the next, the point of order is going to be raised by the honorable member for Lunte, who had indicated.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. You know, there are many ways of putting across views, and the point of order is certainly not one way with which I enjoy doing so. But I raise a point of order on the Honourable Member of Parliament for Luena, who's just finished submitting his discourse. Madam Speaker, when I particularly tendered my submission, I spoke against the valuation of or appraisal of the project as is clear in the report. And I mentioned where the material is. The honorable member who just finished submitting decided to ridicule me and my submission by saying, members are suggesting that there is no appraisal, but look, they are talking about potential for economic development. Madam Speaker, when did potential ever become an appraisal? Here they are talking about a financial, I'm talking about an appraisal from a financial perspective, talking about a cost, which I was clear about. Is it in order to ridicule my contribution by saying that I misled the House and the country, in trying to say there's no appraisal, when in fact the committee is clear that stakeholders were concerned about the lack of, this appraisal? I seek your serious ruling, Madam Speaker.
I don't know whether that's a point of order or some attempt to respond. But the honorable member for Luena was saying, he was responding to your debate where you, and also the honorable member from Pika, where you were saying that the government, the UPN government, has gone into reckless borrowing. That's what he was talking about. He wasn't ridiculing your debate. No, I don't think that was the idea. We were here, we were listening. So don't take it like that, honorable member. Honorable member for Shiwangandu, what's the point of order?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We are guided by rules. And when we've got a matter such as a report of your committee, we must pay attention to the committee report. Was the honorable colleague in whom I'm so pleased I work with him closely, in order to ignore the recommendations of the committee with the very pertinent issue they've raised about the Robito corridor? Madam Speaker, the concern is simply that the borrowing of this huge sum of money to go to the Robito corridor is not accompanied by a financial and economic appraisal to enable this August House National Assembly to undertake a comprehensive cost-benefit analysis before approving the loan. This limited oversight over debt contraction for capital projects. It's in your report here. Was it in order, Madam Speaker, to try and insinuate that we who debated on this issue and who spoke to this concern were speaking from nowhere? We are just talking about this project without applying our minds to the report. Was it in order, Madam Speaker, to take that trajectory in his discourse? I seek your serious guidance.
These points of order that are meant to respond to another honorable member's debate, because we are all looking at the report. The honorable member for Shiwangandu referred to the report, a portion of the report, and also even the honorable member for Luena referred to the portion of the report. For him, he was putting emphasis on the conclusion, which is item 6 on page 8. That is what he was referring to. And he even read, I even marked, the Planning and Budgeting Committee supports approval of the 2026 Annual Borrowing Plan amendment, recognizing that it responds to legitimate financing needs arising from the revised 2026 budget. And he went further. The committee is alive to the fact that the plan provides financing for the strategically important multinational Lobito Corridor project, which has potential to support regional integration, trade facilitation, transport connectivity, mineral export, logistics, and economic transformation. So we were here, we were all listening to the debate. So when we debate, let the others also respond. Let's not turn it into this one debates, that one debates. Of course, the Honorable Minister will be able to respond. There is an indication, last indication from the Honorable Member for Ikeleng. He wants to debate.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the committee's report from the outset is highly commendable. When you look at this Lobito corridor, it has been standing on the strategic plan for government and governments, but today it is now an opening. I should thank even Minister of Finance, Minister for is the Minister of what? Infrastructure, including my colleague here. These have been moving up and down, meaning representing the government, representing the people of Zambia, to connect Zambia to an economic zone. We have been depending on the Tazara, which was just constructed by the Chinese those years when we were restricted during the wars. This time now another opening is coming from what is called Lobito. Whether borrowing or no borrowing, this is a project which every Zambian should cherish, which Zambians should bring closer to their hearts, especially a person like me, outgoing member for Parliament for Ikeleng. I'm so excited that we promised the people of Zambia that this road, this corridor will be done, and there will be greater benefits to this country. Especially people of Northwestern should stand up and cherish what has happened during the governance of UPND under President Hakainde Hichilema. This report, even if it has hinted on certain things, these are nitty-gritties which any government can start looking into. It cannot come and explain every little, the SWOT analysis, this and what. These are details of the financing. Whether money is coming from the European Union, is coming from where, one has to understand what are the benefits of this project which has been undertaken. Borrowing is always measured. Has it got benefit to the country? And I would say yes, big benefit, especially Jimbe Road, Jimbe Corridor, coming all the way from Northwestern, connecting to Soresi. As we have seen that there are a lot of economic activities in Northwestern, all the mines and what, that used to be Cinderella province, but today it is now the area of economic activity. I always support that brother of mine, Minister of Finance, my colleagues, then gives government in totality, who have been going every now and then when you see them absent here, they have been struggling to make sure that this project matures to the level that brings economic activity and benefits to the Zambian people. Zambian people are happy and extremely happy. This report should be supported because we want the activities to start taking place like yesterday. Madam Speaker, this is a wonderful story to hear, especially us who come from that part of Zambia, where Zambezi River starts from, Kafue, most of the rivers and water. Now you are connecting to other countries. It means that Zambia is on the map. You, the mover of the motion, and the seconder, well done. And these issues you have brought in, the economists will look into them, and we are saying it's a well project. It's a good project for the Zambians, good project for the country, good project for the future. I thank you, Madam Speaker. I just wanted to comment to say I have received this project with both hands, and I'm very happy that as I leave Parliament, there will be a connectivity, Jimbe, Kelengi, to the other rest of the country. I thank you.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Minister of Education.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I think you pulled words out of my own thinking when you read the conclusion. But just to make things straight, never ever was that our promise to say that we will never borrow. We never said that. I've been in the opposition for 23 years consecutively. 23 years. We said to these colleagues, stop borrowing recklessly. This is what we told them. When Levy Mwanawasa came in, there was this highly indebted poor country. We entered into that. And then we scaled down from $7 billion to $500 million. These started borrowing. Recklessly, for that matter. They must be told in their own faces to say that you are the people who actually brought this country down. Right? In 2012, they went on the bear market, Eurobond, $750 million. My colleague was there. He's the one who was even laughing around here. We have managed. We've managed. I have not talked about anybody. If you are guilty of yourself, rise. I have not said any name. So, therefore, it was not even at a best price. It was reckless borrowing, $750 million. And out of this, it was $120 million going to Zambia Railways. It was never traced. You can go to NCZ. I was a member of one committee, which some of you know. All right? They said they were going to take $50 million at the national NCZ. There was literally nothing. So where was that money going? They go into 2014, $1 billion. In 2015, $1.25 billion. So where did that money go? So now, here is a prudent Minister of Finance, because he was there when they were restructuring during Manawasa's time. This defaulted to pay. It had to take the hard work of the Minister of Finance and the President to realign our economy up to this time. Now you can question about $250 million. And then my good friend here, you're from where? Kavisa? Yes. Why don't we ask the Americans just to give us, or Europeans to give us? Why do you want to be slaves all the time? We are borrowing this so that we're equal partners. Okay? This is what it means. So it's not from without, it has been thought out diligently. So colleagues, let us not actually just bring something out of what. This borrowing is prudence in our thinking. That I can tell you. Yeah. Except that you know, Madam Speaker, the problem that we have in this country, our memory span is too short. Unfortunately enough. We are people of the moment, and we don't even think about the future. My colleague from London was talking about borrowing for generations which are not here. Even in now, they are only borrowing. Even the child who is not already in the mother's womb has got a mark of their date. These. So today they cannot come here and lecture to us when somebody is prudently borrowing this money. And also, this same Robito corridor will help us according to what, because they were referring, no, look, you can have a definite talent, but in a narrow field. You are reading what you want to be listened to. The conclusion tells you something else. And I'm glad, Honorable Madam Speaker, you read it, because that is what I wanted to do. In order for these things to sink in their minds, they messed us up, and they want to continue messing us up by their contribution here. It will not work. It will not work. You sit down. I never complained about you when you are talking. Yes. Yes.
Can we have order?
You are the one who is actually arrogant. Sit down. Yes. Madam Speaker, as I wind up, I think I've sufficiently annoyed you because that's what you wanted. But if you are normal, you can't be annoyed because facts are here. So we will not accept this political chauvinism which they bring here. This is English, huh? Yes. This is English. So we will not allow political chauvinism here. And then to go out there, you paint a bad picture of people who have worked very hard to rectify the problems that you created for the country. Thank you, Finance Minister.
The Minister of Transport and Logistics, honorable members, we need to wind up this debate. We can't continue going back and forth. The Honorable Minister of Transport and Logistics.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and I'd like to thank the previous Speaker, the Minister for Education, for his valuable insight. I think, Madam Speaker, I rise because I needed to comment on some of the misinformation that is being peddled on the floor of this House. The Honourable Member for Kamfinsa simplified his message when he said this Lobito corridor is merely about the critical minerals, and that the deal is between the three countries, Angola, DRC, and Zambia. I think that what we'd like to urge honourable members is to appreciate what this New Dawn administration has been able to accomplish, even getting the sort of global interest in an infrastructure project, Madam Speaker, that will be by far the most impactful project on this continent since the 70s, when we had infrastructure projects such as the Tazara. Madam Speaker, the Lobito corridor, for the information of the honourable members who are not aware, and that I believe I have a fair amount of authority to speak on this subject because I have represented this country very, very well, Madam Speaker, at various fora, business fora in New York, in Washington, even here in Lusaka, Zambia, where we have made the case for Zambia to be able to develop this Lobito corridor, which will run from Chingola via Slowezi into a place called Kanongesha, connecting to Angola at a place called Luakano. Madam Speaker, this will be, the sort of infrastructure project that is multimodular. We are not simply looking at constructing of a rail line. Madam Speaker, the multimodular concept is that there must be attendant road infrastructure. We ought to develop energy infrastructure along that particular corridor, and we are calling it, Madam Speaker, an economic corridor, because along it we need to promote peasant farming into commercial agriculture. We need to promote agribusinesses, Madam Speaker. We need to promote logistics, infrastructure along this particular corridor. Madam Speaker, by far, this corridor will be able to offer young people, particularly young people, an opportunity for job creation. Madam Speaker, the members on your left will do well that once you have such a monumental project, that even when, for instance, a change in administration in the government in the US, not even President Donald Trump has been able to shoot this project down because they realize how critical this particular line is going to be, because it will offer Europe as well as indeed the Americans the opportunity to have a line that will may be dedicated for the evacuation of minerals, but also minerals where we are able to value add and turn around the economies of the three countries, Madam Speaker. So let us not mislead ourselves and the people that are listening to us through this August House, Madam Speaker. The Lobito Corridor is a project that Zambians must be proud of. And that this was one of the first, projects that the President spoke about when he had the opportunity to address the European Parliament. And that, yes, indeed, as the Minister of Education has said, we as a people ought to develop some pride. we are also putting something on the table where certain road projects are able to be completed, and I think that is how you earn international respect. Madam Speaker, this administration is nothing compared to the recklessness that the previous administration, where the members on your left predominantly belonged. Ours is to turn around this country, and that we shall never go back to those dark days when people run this country as though we do not know what indeed we are doing. Madam Speaker, in the interest of time, I thought I must add my voice even as this Parliament prepares to adjourn sine die. Madam Speaker, we truly believe that these brains on your right shall be able to bounce back and will continue with the good work that we are doing under the able leadership of President Hakainde Hichilema. Madam Speaker, I thank you.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Minister of Finance will respond. We just want to conclude this item, just don't want it hanging. The Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I want to raise 2 points. First of all, I want to respond to the issue of the feasibility study to determine the viability of the railway line. And next, I will address the issue of the accusation that this government is over-borrowing. Now, let me talk about the issue of the feasibility study. Madam Speaker, the committee indeed raised the issue of the feasibility study, and I can confirm, and I think my friends can also confirm, that the feasibility study is there. There's a feasibility study for the railway line. There's also a feasibility study for the road. As my colleague here, the Minister of Transport, said, it is a multi-modular. In other words, a road running parallel to the railway line. In both cases, feasibility studies are being undertaken. They are there. And this is why, Madam Speaker, this is why credible institutions like the African Development Bank, the European Union, the Italians, the World Bank, this is why they are committing financial resources to these projects on the basis of the feasibility study. If there was no feasibility study, none of these credible institutions would come and offer money for those projects. Madam, and indeed, going forward, when we ask Parliament to provide authority to borrow for projects, we shall be providing feasibility studies. So that is agreed. Now, I think colleagues are also belittling the issue of the Lobito corridor. The Lobito corridor is more than just a railway line or a road. The minister here indicated that along this corridor, there are economic activities that are going to be promoted, and therefore this railway line is not just about taking minerals from Congo, Zambia to the post. It is an economic corridor. So what is going to happen on the corridor? Number one, we are going to promote more mining as a result of the exploration that the colleague here is undertaking in that area. We are absolutely convinced that there will be more mines that are going to open along that corridor, so that the railway line, the roads have sufficient cargo. What else are we going to do on the corridor? As you know, the mining sector imports a lot of stuff as inputs into the mining operations. So part of the plan is that some of these items that are imported as input in the mining, we are going to encourage investors to come and produce those items here in Zambia along the corridor, so that you've got jobs in the mining sector, but you've got also jobs in the backstream, those who produce items that go into the corridor. What else are we going to do? We are going to encourage value addition along the corridor.
So the cables of this world, the copper rods of this world, the chemical industries, those who are in agriculture know that a lot of chemicals that are used in agriculture, especially to treat diseases, are copper-based. So we are going to encourage such kind of industries along the corridor. We are going to encourage value addition in terms of items that are copper-rich. Electrical motors, you engineers, you know that the basics of an electrical motor is copper wires. So what else are we going to do? Agriculture. What are we going to what else are we going to encourage? Forest industry. As you know, that area there is high rainfall area. The natural forests are thick. So now we are also going to encourage the development of the exotic trees, so that you've got, with those forest industry, the chichele will be like a joke, because this will be massive. Where there's logging, where there's exportation of timber particles, exportation of paper. So all these are what is planned for the corridor. How then do you question and say, is this thing a useful thing or not? This is something that is going to be a game changer for this country. Therefore, Madam Speaker, this corridor, the money that is here, it is for the roads, as we finalize the feasibility study for the railway line, but the roads, I think the Mwinilonga to Jimbe, before the end of this year, the contractor must be on place. African Development Bank fully committed to funding this. So this is good for our country, Madam Speaker. Let me now address the issue of some colleagues saying we are over-borrowing compared to them. Madam Speaker, I think to simplify matters, let's remember the time when we were coming to 2020, 2021. All the time you read financial reports from New York, from London, Johannesburg, Lusaka, everyone was saying, Zambia, watch out. You are getting into a debt crisis. And the colleagues outside, they said, over and over, they said, the debt situation is okay. That's what they were saying. Warnings were coming, they said, the situation is under control, we are not overborrowed. In the end, they defaulted. What is the meaning of default? Default means that you fail to pay your debts, which means that the advice that was coming was right, but they ignored it. Today, Madam Speaker, as we speak, you have heard for yourself time over and over again, this same organization that we're warning Zambia about getting over-borrowed, they are praising this government, they are praising Zambia, that Zambia has managed to control its debt. Madam Speaker, the credit agencies, those who look at the debt of the country and assign a plus, or which is good, or those with E or something, these credit agencies, one by one, have been improving the credit scores for Zambia. What does that mean? It means that they are seeing that the debt situation of our country is being brought under control. So I get surprised, Madam Speaker, the colleagues seem to be thinking in the negative, like the mathematics that we used to learn, a number line. There's positive things and negative things. Now they seem to be thinking in the negative direction. Because when the people were warning them that you're in trouble, they took the opposite view. We are okay. When the country is being praised, again they take the negative view that the country is getting into trouble. So, colleagues, remove this negative perception. Perceive things correctly.
perceive things normally, like all of us. So that what is good, what is bad is bad. Don't say what is good is bad, and what is bad is good. Then you become negative. Madam Speaker, thank you.
The Honourable Member for Momba, winding up debate.
Madam Speaker, thank you very much for giving the committee an opportunity to work on this matter. Madam Speaker, just to again re-echo the committee's submission. The committee indicated that the appraisal for the Lobito corridor was not submitted. We didn't say that it wasn't there, because according to the Public Investment Management Guidelines of 2023, it mandates an appraisal of all capital projects, Madam Speaker, to be done and be included in the budget. And I know because we didn't have enough time to ask again the Ministry of Finance to ask them to submit that. So I just want to make it clear, and I'm happy that one of the ministers has indicated that the appraisal is there. The committee just indicated that it was not submitted before the committee. Having said that, Madam Speaker, let me thank all the debaters. Honorable Kangombe, Honorable Kafaya, though, as usual, is gone. Honorable Kampyongo, Honorable Muchima, Honorable Nakoka. I don't want to be cited that I've left someone else, and Honorable Kapyanga. And also finally to thank the Minister of Finance for having responded. And I know, Madam Speaker, are going for lunch. I want to thank you most sincerely that for the past 5 years, I'm grateful that these honorable members gave me the opportunity to manage both the Planning and Budgeting Committee and also the Expanded Planning and Budgeting Committee. So I think we are proud of the work that which you have done. As a committee, you can imagine, Madam Speaker, me managing Honorable General Stwala here as a member of my committee. So I take pride that he has been a very good member of the committee with all the others. And also I've learned a lot from the Honorable Minister of Finance. I've added a lot of knowledge in my work. I do appreciate, and all the members. We are praying that we come back and continue with this trajectory to better the economic affairs of this nation. Madam Speaker, we want to thank you very much, also together with also the clerk, for the amount of work that you allowed us to do during this period of time. I beg to move, Madam Speaker. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Apologies again, supposed to be lunchtime, but we need to stop at a particular point. I put the question. The question is that this House adopts the report of the Planning and Budgeting Committee on the consideration of the 2026 Annual Borrowing Plan amendment for the 5th session of the 13th National Assembly, laid on the table of the House on Sunday, 10th May 2026. As many as are of that opinion say aye. Aye. Of the contrary say no. The ayes have it. The ayes have it. The question is resolved in the affirmative. The clerk will now read the orders of the day.
The supplementary estimates of expenditure number 1 of 2026, commencement of committee work.
The House will now resolve into committee at 14:30. In the meantime, enjoy your lunch.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for still being with us on Parliament Television. Business of the House has been suspended for a lunch break, and at the time business was being suspended, the House had just about to resolve into Committee of Supply to consider supplementary estimates of expenditure number 1 of 2026. And so when business resumes at 14:30 hours, we do expect the House to resolve into committee to consider supplementary estimates of expenditure number 1 of 2026. So just now, we look at business that has been considered on the floor of the House from the time business commenced at 10 hours.
Yes, indeed. So, Madam Speaker did make some announcements. Madam Speaker did inform the House that in accordance with the Standing Order 121.1 over the National Assembly of Zambia Standing Orders 2024, The following bills have been withdrawn by the sponsoring offices. 1. The National Assembly Powers, Privileges and Immunities Bill, National Assembly Bill number 45 over 2026, and the Parliamentary Code of Conduct Bill, National Assembly Bill number 46 over 2026. Madam Speaker further said that the bills shall not be considered by the House accordingly.
In the other announcement, Madam Speaker informed the House that she had received communication to the effect that in the absence of Her Honour the Vice President, who is attending to other government business, the Minister of Home Affairs and Internal Security, Honourable Jacob J. Mwimbu MP, has been appointed acting leader of government business in the House from today, Monday, 11th May 2026, until further notice.
The House went on to consider a motion which was moved by Mr. Harry Kamboni, Kalomo Member of Parliament. In moving this motion, Mr. Kamboni was urging the House to adopt the report over the Zambian delegation to the 152nd Interparliamentary Union IPU Assembly and related meetings held in Istanbul, Parliamentary Turkey, from 15th to 19th April 2026. For the 5th session over the 13th National Assembly, laid on the table of the House on Sunday, 10th May 2026, and this motion was seconded by Nalolo Member of Parliament, Mr. Imanga Wamnyima, and the report was adopted.
And another motion was moved by Tejiteji Member of Parliament, Mr. Tuambo Mutinta, urging the House to adopt the report of the Committee on Local Governance, Housing and Chiefs Affairs, on the report of the Auditor General on the audit of accounts of local authorities for the financial year ended 31st December 2024, for the 5th session of the 13th National Assembly, laid on the table of the House on Sunday, 10th May 2026. And this motion was seconded by Kamfinsa Member of Parliament, Mr. Christopher Kangombe. After debate, a question was put and this motion has been adopted.
Thereafter, the House did consider a motion which was moved by Momba Member of Parliament, Mr. Fred Jadila. In moving this motion, he was urging the House to adopt the report of the Planning and Budgeting Committee on the consideration over the 2026 Annual Borrowing Plan Amendment for the 5th session over the 13th National Assembly, laid on the table of the House on Sunday, 10th May 2026, and this motion was seconded by Kafula Africa Member of Parliament, Mr. Jeffrey Molegwa. The committee was adopted, the report rather was adopted, Martin.
And after consideration of those 3 committee reports, and the time business was being suspended for a lunch break, the House was about to commence committee work on to consider supplementary estimates of expenditure number 1 of 2026.
Still to come, we do expect the House to consider benefits of former Chief Justice Bill, National Assembly Bill number 67, as well as the Public Service Pension Bill, National Assembly Bill number 69.
We also expect the House to consider the Local Authorities Superannuation Bill, National Assembly Bill number 70 of 2026, the Public Gathering Bill, National Assembly Bill number 71 of 2026, the Petroleum Development and Management Bill, National Assembly Bill number 72 of 2026.
The Technical Education, Vocation and Entrepreneurship Training Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 73, the Penal Code Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 74, the Local Government Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 75, and also the National Assembly Speaker's Retirement Benefits Bill, National Assembly Bill number 77 of 2026.
After consideration of those bills at second reading, we do expect the House to resolve into committee to consider the following bills: the National Health Research Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 59 of 2026, the National Institute of Public Administration Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 60 of 2026, the National Prosecution Authority Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 61 of 2026.
The Persons with Disabilities Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 64, the Land Perpetual Succession Bill, National Assembly Bill number 66, the National Pensions Scheme Bill, National Assembly Bill number 68, the Closed Circuit Television Protection Bill, National Assembly Bill number 1 at committee stage, report stage, and the Land Survey Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 12, also to be considered in committee in report.
So that's what we expect the House to consider later in the afternoon. Just now we go on a lunch break. From all of us, keep watching Parliament Television. Good afternoon.